Welcome to AniMel. This is a new anime channel, so if you're looking for anime, you're in the right place. Now, it's called AniMel because we're going to be talking about anime, and my name is Mel. Welcome. Now, whether you're new or a veteran anime viewer or a manga enthusiast, this is the great place for you. Now, since we're in the month of October, I thought it'd be great if we could talk about some horrors and some thrillers. Now, if you're a big horror and thriller junkie, I got some great starters for you, or some great get into the spooky mood feels. Now, what we're going to talk about is borderline mid to moderate horror, only because I tend to be a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to watching horror anything. And we'll also talk about some thrillers for people who still want to get into that feel, but are not necessarily the horror type. We'll go over 5 today, but if you want more, feel free to come back, comment below, and ask for additional recommendations. Alright then, so now that we've summed it up, let's get into it. So we're going to start off with a well-known classic. You may have heard about it whether you're an anime fan or not. This classic is called Death Note. So Death Note revolves around a high schooler. His name is Light Yagami. Now, any average high schooler would know that high school sucks and it's boring as hell. So Light, like any average high schooler, sitting in the middle of the class, staring out the window, notices a notebook falls out of the sky. Right. Some random notebook just falls out of the sky. Engaged and intrigued by this, after school, Light goes to investigate and see what this whole notebook falling out of the sky situation is. Finds it, picks up the notebook, lo and behold, he acquires some abilities. Now this, if we backtrack a little bit, this sets up the whole premise of the show called Death Note. It has to do with quite a bit of death, and it's in relation to the notebook. So as he picks up this notebook, acquires these abilities that are equivalent to a Shinigami. If you don't know what Shinigami means, it's essentially a Death Reaper, or roughly translates from Japanese to English, God of Death, Death God. So he acquires these abilities and now he's able to see time of death and when people are supposed to die. So basically as humans, we kind of have these expiration dates floating over our heads. And he's able to dictate how people die and when they die. What's really interesting though is that with this notebook comes the ability to also see the Shinigami, who's the original owner of this notebook. And with that, he takes it upon himself to play judge and jury of the world and determine who's the righteous and who's evil. So what makes this so thrilling is that you dive into the world of this whole mindset of you're able to control people's lives, and it becomes kind of a game of cat and mouse when the police and the authorities start to catch on to something weird's been going on with the number of deaths and criminals and so on. So now that we talked a bit about a thriller anime, we're going to get into a horror one. Now this one is one that I actually finished recently, and this one is called Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul tends to verge more on the side of horror, and there's a little bit of gore in it. So if you don't really like a lot of blood and intestines, I suggest you fast forward to the next one. So Tokyo Ghoul is about our main character, Ken Kaneki, average college student, and he's kind of excited about this date he's about to go on. It's a very beautiful woman, and they seem to share the same author. You know, average people. But as the date's going on and everything seems great, well, dandy, it's going swimmingly, he offers to walk his date home. Now, as he's walking his date home, she points him into the direction in which her home is. And it's kind of a dark alley. and there's no one really walking up that alley. I think you know where I'm going with this. If you have ever seen any thriller, horror, suspense, anything like that, of that nature, then I think it's safe to say that any type of alleyway, dark, anything scenes, something bad's about to go down. So they're walking up this alley, and she kind of just is like, you know what? I'm just gonna drop the act. Turns out his beautiful, wonderful date that he's been crushing on is a ghoul. Now, if I didn't explain in the beginning, let me explain now. The show is called Tokyo Ghoul, ghouls being beings that essentially eat humans. Their ways and means of surviving is to eat human flesh. So as you can imagine, they went out to eat for a date, but the meal wasn't during the date. The meal was him. Anyway, going on, she attacks him, and they're near some sort of like construction site. He's trying to escape her, and in trying to escape her, an incident occurs where some steel beams kind of fall down on both of them. Remember, kids, don't go into alleys, dark alleys, by yourself or just with one other person that you just met, and don't play around on construction sites, it's dangerous. Anyway, so as you can imagine, this kills his date. This leaves him on the brink of death. The hospital and doctors are able to save his life by transplanting some organs from his date into his body. Now, as you can imagine, compatibility of a ghoul's organs to a human's organs may be kind of off, which ends up turning our main character, Ken Kaneki, into a ghoul himself. But he's not 100% ghoul, since it's just some organs that are in his body. He's actually half ghoul, and he actually ends up struggling a ton between his ghoul side and his human side. So what ends up making this a really good, interesting concept of a show is that you get to watch him fight between two different identities of himself and live amongst the human world with his best friends and within the ghoul world with his new friends. Additionally, like I said, it's horror, so there's lots of action and lots of mind-bending moments that kind of make you want to watch through your eyes. At least that's for me anyway. My last piece of advice when you do watch this is I highly recommend you not eating while you watch this. I made that mistake, and let's just say I didn't feel so great afterwards. So our next one is kind of another thriller, but it's also a little sci-fi. This one's kind of fun and it's relatively short. It's only 12 episodes. So if you're gonna start with anything, I highly suggest that you start with this one. This one's called Erased. Erased is about a man in his late 20s. He's about 29, 30. And he, like any average person, has a part-time job doing delivery, is an aspiring manga artist, but for some reason he's acquired this ability to travel back in time. Right, he's magically acquired this ability, doesn't know where it came from, just popped up at some point in his life and he's had it ever since. Now, the key point to this ability, which he calls revival, is that it only happens when someone is about to die. And he'll kind of witness it, and then time will rewind, and he'll have the opportunity to prevent said death. As the first episode goes on, some events start to happen which lead to someone important in his life dying. Frantic, emotional, and seemingly framed for this incident, he, begging to the powers that be that he doesn't know how to control, turns back time with his revival. But what kind of throws it off a bit is that he ends up going back in time about 18 years to when he's like a kid. And in trying to figure out who murdered his beloved family member, he must also figure out who murdered his classmates back when he was 11 years old. Now, what's interesting is that he retains the mind of his 29-year-old self and the intelligence. What's not so great is that he's like this big now. So if there's someone going around committing murders and kidnapping people, how's he supposed to fight his assailant? Anyway, it makes for a really good, thrilling story. You don't know what's gonna happen next. And like anyone who's watched any type of time travel show or movie, there's always the butterfly effect that you have to be cautious of, because any intervention in the natural timeline can result in new events occurring and basically creating a different timeline. But what do I know? Horror thriller anime number 4. How do I start this one off? It's a good question. How do I start this one off? Cool, let's go. Horror thriller anime show number 4. This one is called Promised Neverland. Now, when you first watch this, you may come back to me and be like, hey, Mel, this has no horror thriller vibes in it. Like, it's a bunch of kids playing around in somebody's backyard. How is this horror thriller related? Alright, look. We're gonna get there. If you want me to give you the full synopsis for it, which, you know, that's what we're all here for, then I'll give it to you. You'll understand soon why it's on the list. So basically, these kids, as happy looking as they are, the situation is not what it seems. So it starts off with a bunch of kids playing, but our main characters are mostly Emma, Norman, and Ray, and we follow the story through their eyes. So Emma, Norman, and Ray, going about their average day, they wake up, they have breakfast together in their community foster home dining hall, they're greeted by their wonderful foster mother. They also are proceeded to get homeschooled because it seems like they live in the middle of nowhere, so there's no place for them to go to school. And then they go on about their activities, playing tag in the backyard, having dinner together, and this dinner that they're having is kind of a special dinner because one of their beloved foster sisters is getting adopted. Yay! Who doesn't want to be adopted if you're in a foster home, right? So she's getting adopted. Her name is Connie and has this cute little rabbit. Okay, I'm getting distracted, sorry. Anyway, so she's getting adopted and mom sees her off. She's got her little bag, she's got everything in tow, and she's out the door and on her way. Everyone's super happy and also super sad because she's leaving. Emma, Norman, and Ray just hanging out after Connie leaves, and Ray brings to Emma and Norman's attention that Connie has left her beloved stuffed animal behind. Determined to make sure that she has her bunny, Emma and Norman decide to return it to her. Ray suggests that, you know, she probably has not gone too far. You guys could probably catch up to her, right? They leave. They try to find her. In doing so, they kind of have to like cross the fence. You know, sometimes mom gives you rules that you shouldn't break, and this is one of those instances. So they've explained at the very beginning of the episode that since they were very young, mom has always told them to not cross the fence and not go over the fence. So they think they're doing a good deed and probably mom will understand. So they hop over the fence, come to a dark tunnel and no one's really there. So they kind of suspect that, yeah, maybe mom hasn't arrived yet with Connie. We'll just wait here and we'll meet up with them. Cool. So they're hanging, surveying the area, exploring the tunnel. Like we talked about alleyways earlier, I think the same logic applies for tunnels. Don't walk into dark tunnels with kind of no lights on and there's no one there. You know nothing good is about to happen. I digress. So they go in, start looking for Connie, and they find a little wagon. In exploring, they look inside the wagon and yeah, I think you guys may have guessed it. Connie is in the wagon, dead. Didn't think it'd get this dark, huh? Yep, so Connie's dead, thinking that she's been adopted by a wonderful family, and she didn't get adopted by a wonderful family, and said she was killed. Now, who killed her, you asked? Well, you're about to find out in a few seconds. So it turns out that they hear some voices coming down the tunnel, a voice inclusive of their mom's voice. And her mom, their mom, is talking to some demon-looking creatures that are talking about the children on the farm. Yeah, the farm. It's a farm, guys. Like basically how if you eat meat, we have cows and chickens and they live on that farm and we raise them. Yes, these children are getting raised to be fed to monsters. And their main, portions for eating is the brain. Yeah, so look, you asked why I was suggesting it when it didn't seem like one, but it totally is. So I suggest that you watch it to its entirety because it continues to get super dark. Now that Emma and Norman know the real deal behind their lovely foster home, and obviously they clue Ray in, so everybody's just like, how are we gonna escape this? It's a good watch and it'll definitely keep you on your edge, not just from the storyline alone, but the way that the anime is kind of animated and drawn from different angles to kind of create this intensive fear and suspense. You'll greatly appreciate it. Sorry guys, I'm trying to keep this as short as possible because I want you to be able to go watch this after we finish talking about it. Our last one is called Man Crybaby. Now, Man Crybaby is actually a very well-known, critically acclaimed anime that was released in 2018 on Netflix. The manga goes way further back, but from what I understand, this is one of the first ones that was animated to a truer relation to the manga, or it was adapted well. Anyway, let me continue. So our main character is Akira. Akira has this best friend who comes to him one day and he's like, dude, let's go to this party. They go to this party and it's a Black Sabbath party with people indulging in drugs, sex, and, basically worshiping Satan. Yeah, so it's a hell party essentially, but hell kind of ends up breaking loose. So I don't know if this is something that they were waiting to happen or they wanted to happen. So hell breaks loose and everyone in that party starts getting possessed. Now Akira and his best friend are also at that party, and Akira also ends up getting possessed. In his possession, he ends up actually making a harmonious relationship with that demon. I don't know how to really explain it. Basically, it's compatible enough that he has demon and devil powers, but he can retain his human soul. So I guess he could have the best of both worlds in this instance. Now, in having these abilities and this whole party happening, it also comes to his knowledge through his best friend that it seems like Satan and hell is trying to claim Earth, take it over, like whole Armageddon situation, and he tries to use his abilities to prevent it from happening. Now, there's definitely a lot of gore, gruesome deaths, and that's kind of what makes this part of the whole horror category, aside from the concepts of angels and devils and demons. So if you're really into that really cringy gore, close your eyes sort of situation, this is one that's definitely for you. And there we have it. 5 different horror thriller animes that you can start watching before Halloween to get into the mood for the spooky season. But there, you're gonna have it from me today. I'm Mel, this is AniMel. Please stay tuned for more content that will be coming soon. And if you like it, please like, comment, subscribe, share, and any feedback is always welcome, guys. Bye!